recorded file. I don't want to actually take your time. So if you remember, we talked about research, its characteristics, the variables that we have, and how we can identify different variables. Also, we talked about different paradigms in research and research types. We said we have three major research types: quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods studies. So within the, this session and the last session on Wednesday, we are going to talk about quantitative research, the way we formulate questions and a hypothesis, the way we can collect the data for conducting quantitative research, and the way we can actually have our sample or population. So today we are going to talk about research questions and hypothesis. Research is guided by the questions, by the hypothesis that we propose. By questions and hypothesis, we mean the way we want to explore different variables. Or we can say the aims, purposes, goals of the research can be determined by the questions and hypothesis. So today we are going to review different types of quantitative research that we have, and then to see what questions and hypotheses we form in order to explore, investigate, and do research on different variables. The very first type of quantitative research is descriptive one. So we have descriptive studies, we have descriptive research questions. In descriptive studies, we try to find numerical descriptions. By numerical descriptions, we mean we try to find numbers that have interpretations, that have meanings. For example, when I say the students use this particular reading strategy 10 times in this class, and the students in the other class use this reading strategy 5 times when they read a passage, these numbers have meanings. So descriptive studies in quantitative research provides us with numbers, and these numbers describe a particular phenomenon, a particular event, a particular topic. So these numbers have meanings. These numbers can show us something. These numbers have interpretations. Look at the example. So, can you see the slides? Great. So the first one is, what is the frequency of the use of passive voice verbs in scientific articles written by PhD students of chemistry? So you see, the word frequency is the word that we use for the numbers, okay? So the point is that when we say frequency, we mean descriptive studies. We mean numerical descriptions. So what is the frequency of the use of passive voice verbs? So I want to find the number of passive voice verbs where? In scientific articles. The articles that are published in scientific journals, written by whom? By PhD students of chemistry. Why? I check the number of passive voice verbs in the scientific articles written by PhD students of chemistry so that I can understand whether I should teach PhD students of chemistry passive voice verbs, because when we want to teach the students something, some grammatical points, when they are, for example, PhD students of chemistry, we shouldn't start everything from the scratch. We shouldn't start everything from the beginner level. We should teach them something that is useful for them in order to write research, in order to do their let's say, tasks at university of the descriptive research, and I want to check the number of passive voice verbs in the articles by PhD students of chemistry to have pedagogical implications, to take advantage of the numbers. This descriptive study for my classroom, in which I have a group of students who study chemistry, for example, and they want to teach, they want to learn how to write articles in English. So I teach them passive voice because, for example, I see there are a lot of passive voice verbs in the articles that are published in scientific journals and written by chemistry experts. Another example of a descriptive research question is this: what is the frequency of the use of cognitive reading strategies by advanced EFL learners? So I want to check the number of times the advanced EFL learners use cognitive reading strategies. So I ask them how many times you use cognitive reading strategies. I will check the number of times they use cognitive reading strategies to see whether my students are familiar with the cognitive reading strategies. If the frequency is low, if the number is low, so it means that my students do not know cognitive reading strategies. So I should teach them cognitive reading strategies. So the sound is choppy. Re-enter the class, okay? Maybe your internet is weak. So when the sound gets choppy, so go out of the class and join the class again. So descriptive research questions provide us with numbers, as we said, okay, and can be in this form. What is the frequency of the use of something? Okay, so this is the pattern that we have for descriptive research questions. So if I ask you, write a descriptive research question, this is the pattern that you should have. What is the frequency of the use of, for example, listening strategies? What is the frequency of the use of simple present in scientific articles written by experts in physics? So you can add anything here in this blank when you want to have a descriptive research question. So this is the pattern of a descriptive research question. What is the frequency of the use of something? Okay, is it clear how we write a descriptive research question? Good. Now, can you write some descriptive research questions in the chat box? Can you use this pattern and write descriptive research questions in the chat box? For example, I write one. What is the frequency of the use of simple past verbs in lectures by experts in physics? This is one descriptive research question. Can you write some in the chat box? I want to check whether you learned descriptive research question or not. So I'm waiting for you to write descriptive research question. How many times can you use W question in grammatical test in secondary school? Very good. So you can say it this way. What is the frequency of WH questions in grammatical test in secondary school? That's right. Good. So can you write more? What about the rest? Can you write some descriptive questions in the chat box? Okay, Habib Abdullah Ahmad, you raised your hand. You want to say something? Okay, so you can say if you want to say something. So you can turn on your microphone and say, Habib Abdullah Ahmad. Okay, so you can activate your microphone and say if you actually want. I allow you. It doesn't work. Why? I actually activated that. Can you turn it on now? What is the frequency of using imperative forms in your class? Great, thank you. Thank you very much. A good question, yeah. A good descriptive question. Okay. So I see the rest are typing, so this is why I'm waiting. Okay. So this was the actually first type of, let's say, research questions. The second type is called the descriptive research question, but the nature is different. In the first type of descriptive research questions, we search for the frequency, the number. In the second type, we try to explore the relationship between and among two or more variables. We are concerned with the degree of relationship or its direction. What does it mean? The degree, it means that it is significant. That's okay, آقای صالح الجبوری. That's okay. Go and have your exam. Then watch the recorded file of the class, okay? So good luck in your exam. So the degree of the relationship, it means that whether it is a significant relationship or not. And its direction means whether there is a positive relationship between and among two variables or the relationship is negative. For example, look at this question. Is there a relationship between MA students' research literacy and their scores in research methodology course? So variables are MA students' research literacy and their scores in research methodology course. These are two variables. I want to explore the relationship. This is the question that I write for my research. Is there a relationship between MA students' research literacy and their scores in research methodology course? I want to check the degree of relationship. It means that whether there is a significant relationship or a weak relationship or a moderate relationship. And I want to check the direction. It means that if there is a positive relationship, when the research literacy increases, the students' scores in research methodology course should increase. When there is a negative relationship, when the students' research literacy increases, their scores may actually come lower, and their scores are lower. So this is one form of descriptive research question in which we want to check the relationship. The second type, we check the relationship. Another example, is there a relationship between speaking strategy use of advanced EFL learners and their speaking fluency? What are the variables here? The speaking strategy use and the speaking fluency. I want to check the degree of a relationship. I mean, whether there is a significant relationship between speaking strategy use and speaking fluency of advanced EFL learners and its direction. If it is positive, it means that when the students use more speaking strategies, so their speaking fluency increases. When there is a negative relationship, it is that speaking strategy use, when it is high, it may lead to lower speaking fluency. So in this type of descriptive research question, we try to explore the relationship between and among two or more variables. So all these variables, A and B, are independent variables. We check their relationship. So the variables in this descriptive research question type are independent ones, okay? Because nothing is going to influence nothing else. So they are independent variables. We check their relationship. The pattern of the question is this. Is there any significant relationship between variable A and variable B? This is the model, this is the pattern that we have for the second type of descriptive research question that check the relationship between and among different variables. I write another example in the chat box. Look, is there any significant relationship, for example, between listening strategy use and listening scores, okay, of students in secondary school? This is, for example, another descriptive research question that check the relationship. Can you write some descriptive research questions for the relationship in the chat box? Can you use this pattern and write another research question in the chat box? For example, you want to check whether there is a significant relationship between teachers' income, the money they gain, the salary, and their satisfaction with their job. So you would write something like this. Is there any significant relationship between EFL teachers' salary and their satisfaction with their job? So you expect the salary, when it increases, the satisfaction with the job also increases. So this is our expectation. This is what we want to explore. So research questions simply describe questions the researcher plans to investigate, are most often used in descriptive studies rather than experimental studies. Yes, آقای علی سار صباح, if I'm right. But we have also, research questions in experimental studies as well. Okay, we will see in some studies we have actually, in some experimental studies, we have research questions. But it is right that they are the questions that we want to investigate. They show the purpose of the study, as I said. Okay, now, can you write some examples in the chat box? Can you use this model that you see in the slide and write a research question in the chat box? This can be this can be an exam question. I give you some variables, then I ask you to write a descriptive research question to find a relationship between these. So can you write a research question for descriptive one, exploring the relationship? So I'm waiting for the descriptive research questions you write in the chat box as an example. Is there any significant relationship between the learning of the students and their material they had in their first term? Thank you. A good question. Yes. You want to see whether the students learn more, learn better, depending on the material that they had in the first term. What is the influence of times repetition on the speaking skill in the primary school? This is not a descriptive research question, okay? Descriptive research question starts with this. Is there any significant relationship? When we say influence, it is cause and effect, the next type, okay? So you can restate the question like this. Is there any significant relationship between the times of repetition and the speaking skill in the primary school? Okay, so you can ask the question like this. I write it for you. Is there any significant relationship between the times of repetition and the speaking skills of students in primary school? So this is the research question that we can write for what you said, آقای داوی رایت سلمان. Okay? Now I have a question. In Iraq, when does learning English start? Do you have English in the primary schools or it starts in secondary school? I mean, are you teachers in secondary school, high school, primary school? When does it start? It starts in primary school. So when the students go to school, they start learning English as well, yes? And how many years do students study in a school? I mean, primary, secondary, and let's say high school. How many years? For example, in Iran, 12 years the students are in a school. Then they go to university. What about in 6 years in primary school? So this is the same in Iran. 6 years in secondary school. So these two stages, 6 years in primary school, 6 years in secondary school. So the same for Iran. Yeah, good. Great. So we have many common features in the educational system. Good. So let's move to the third type of research questions. Another type of research questions, up to now we said descriptive research questions, and descriptive research questions were the frequency type and the relationship type. Now we have another type which is called causal, which is cause and effect research question. What does it mean? It means I want to check the effect of something and something else, the influence of something and something else, or the differences that exist between and among different parts. آقای محمد عمر محمود, do you have a question?
Tell me. Muhammad Sadoun, not Omar Mahmoud. Yeah. So I use.
So I got what?
Yeah. Actually, just today I'm on the internet to attend the lecture with my friend Ahmed Ibrahim, and Abdullah. Ahmed Muhammad and Abdullah.
Okay.
Abdullah. Abdullah Habib. So I need to tell you about these things.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. You mean they don't have access to the class?
Yeah, I don't have the pack of internet to connect to join to the lecture.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So you can have actually others, let's say profiles, and also they can have the recorded file as
Okay. Thank you, Miss.
well. You're welcome. Okay, good. So let's move to another type of research question, which is causal, which is actually uh, cause and effect research question. So let's see what you wrote. Questions, sometimes called the statements, unlike do not often specify the type of relationship. Causal is the most commonly used in the field of research and statistics. Exactly. This is the commonest type. That's right. Thank you, آقای Ali Farah Salam, if I'm right. Yes. So, causal research questions are the most common type. Okay, so the first type which explores the effect is like this: the independent variables causes change in the dependent variable. For example, we say, does a strategy-based instruction have an effect on elementary students' reading comprehension? So strategy-based instruction is the independent variable. We want to check whether it causes a change in the elementary students' reading comprehension. So we want to check whether when we teach the students strategies and we want them to use the strategies when they read the text, it can increase their ability to understand, to comprehend the passage. So this is the causal type of research question in which we check the influence of an independent variable on a dependent variable. So in this research question, a strategy-based instruction is the independent variable and the reading comprehension is the dependent variable. The second example, does speaking strategy training have an effect on advanced students' speaking fluency? Strategy training is an independent variable, and the students' speaking fluency is a dependent variable. So I want to explore the influence, the effect of speaking strategy training on the advanced students' speaking fluency. So this is a causal type of research question in which I want to check the effect of independent variables on dependent variables. This is the model. Look, the model is like this. Does an independent variable have an effect, have an impact, have an influence on a dependent variable? So this is the pattern, the model. You can use an independent variable here and you can put a dependent variable here to form a causal research question. For example, thank you, Abdul Karim Muhammad Abdul Rahman. Does windy weather have an effect on the garden flowers? Exactly. This is a causal research question. So one example of causal is the way in which medication will help relieve your headache. Yes. For example, you may say, does this pill have an effect on a student's headache? But you know, when you become, you are a teacher, you make research questions which are educational, okay? For example, I write another example in the chat box. Does Iraqi students' use of mobile may have an effect on their learning achievements in primary school? You want to check whether those students who use their mobiles, okay, they are good in learning English because they work there with their mobiles and maybe they check the internet and they get exposed to the language. So you want to check the influence of mobile using on the learning. The use of speaking strategies. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, آقای محمد الزرقانی. So you can ask a question like this. Does the use of speaking strategies have an effect on the students' interaction in the target language? Yes, thank you. Strategic study gives a deep meaning in the methodology concept. Yeah, so you need to make a causal research question based on that. Causal when pipeline ruptures may occur for various reasons. Yeah, these are examples actually not in educational context, but they can show what we mean by causal research question. Yeah, that's right. So if you want to surf the net and find more research questions, you need to write educational or causal research questions in education or in English teaching. Okay, so these can lead to results that seem to be more relevant to our field of study. So another type of causal research question is the one in which we want to check the differences in the student's performance or behavior among groups. Look at the example. Look at the example. Is there a difference between advanced and intermediate EFL learners in terms of their use of metacognitive learning strategies in Iranian institutes? So we want to check the difference between two groups of students, advanced students and intermediate students. In terms of what? So what is different between them? The use of metacognitive learning strategies. We want to explore the difference between two groups regarding the use of metacognitive learning strategies. So this is one type of causal research question in which we want to explore the difference. Another example, is there a difference in advanced students speaking fluency in a strategy training versus no strategy training conditions? It means that I have two classes. In one, I have a strategy training. In the other class, I have no strategy training. Now, I give the students a speaking test and I give them scores for their speaking fluency. Then I want to check the difference between the group in which I taught the strategies and the group in which I didn't teach the strategies. And I check the scores of speaking fluency to see whether there is a significant difference between these two groups. This is another type of causal research question. The model would be like this. Is there a difference or is there any significant difference between group A and group B in terms of a variable? This variable is mostly the, let's say, independent variable. We want to check the difference between group A and group B in terms of that particular variable. Sometimes it is the dependent. It depends on the design of our study, okay? It depends. For example, I provide the students with training. In the other class, I don't give them training. So giving training is my independent variable. I want to check the difference of the students in speaking fluency. Speaking fluency becomes the dependent variable. So independent variable of what we expect will influence dependent variables. Yeah, we talked about the variables last session. You're right, Aghay Muhammad Azarghani. Thank you. So, can you write some examples for this type of research question? Is there a significant difference between group A and group B in terms of a variable? For example, I write another example. Is there a difference between Iraqi students and Iranian students in terms of their motivation to learn English? I want to check if Iraqi students and Iranian students are different in terms of their motivation, their reasons to learn English. This can be a causal research question. So, can you write some examples for this? Latitude and longitude, yeah. Good. I mean, examples in educational context, in English classes. Can you write some examples of this type of research question in educational context? Is there a difference between the master students and the PhD students in terms of the same college? In terms of, for example, their scores in research course. Huh? Okay, good. Thank you. So we have two groups, master students, PhD students. What we want to check is their, for example, motivation, their learning, their scores in the same college. Good. What else? What other examples can you give? Is there a significant difference in using vocabulary between government schools and civilian schools? Thank you very much. A very good question. Yes. You want to compare, you want to explore the difference between two groups, government schools and civilian schools. In terms of what? The vocabulary use. Good. Any other examples? What about the rest? Okay. Agaya Davi, you want to talk? Yes, please.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon.
I ask about the causal effect, cause and effect.
Yes.
Did they all descriptive or some of them predictive?
So causal is one type of quantitative research, okay? The research question we have in quantitative, we have descriptive, causal, and predictive. Descriptive is about the frequency and relationship. Causal is about the difference and effect. Predictive is about prediction.
So they all descriptive.
They are all quantitative.
Yes, quantitative, I know. Quantitative.
Yeah. Yes, because descriptive is one type of quantitative. Well, sorry, I didn't get you. What?
Yes, Doctor. Predictive and descriptive. Both of them quantitative or different?
No, descriptive and predictive are quantitative, the same as causal. You see, we have three categories, okay? Three categories for quantitative. Category 1, descriptive. Category 2, causal. Category 3, predictive. Now, descriptive can be relationship and frequency. Causal can be difference and effect. Predictive is about prediction. All of these are quantitative, okay?
Get it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good. So let's move to predictive research questions. Sometimes we want to see whether a variable can predict a future or outcome of a future behavior or outcome of something. For example, we say, does upper intermediate students' level of anxiety predict their willingness to communicate in the class? So here, what is the independent variable? Upper intermediate students' level of anxiety. We want to check whether it can predict the students' willingness to communicate, to see whether the students with high level of anxiety are less willing to communicate in the class, or the students' level of anxiety, when it increases, it can predict the students' more willingness to communicate in the class. Or another example of predictive research question, does parental educational level, it means the educational level of the father and mother, predict the students' tendency to enroll in ESL classes? So the independent variable is parental educational level. The dependent variable here is a student's tendency, student's willingness, student's motivation to enroll, to register in EFL classes. So the pattern for predictive research questions is like this. Does variable A predict variable B? So we want to check whether variable A, which is independent variable, can predict the future behavior or outcome of variable B, which is the dependent variable. Okay, so let me see what Hajem Karar wrote. There is a difference between distinguished school students and government school students in learning. Yeah, if we want to make it a question, Hajem, we can say, is there a difference? Okay, that can be a research question, a causal research question. Now, this is a predictive research question model. For example, I write, does Iraqi students' level of anxiety, okay, predict their scores in the final exams in primary school? So this is a predictive type of question. I want to check the student's level of anxiety, can predict, can show me how their scores would be in the final exam. For example, if I have a student who has high level of anxiety, would get low score, so that I can take an action and I can help my student. Okay, so this is actually the predictive research question. Can you write predictive research questions in the chat box? Can you write some examples based on your classes, your students, your teaching context? Does the good accommodation of students predict their level? If we say influence, it becomes a causal question. Okay, it's right, but it becomes a causal question. But when it is predictive, we should say predict. We use the word predict. Okay, good, thank you. A good example. What else? Yes, in the final exam, I may give you the title of the research and I ask you to identify the variables or write the research question. Let me give you some examples before we continue, okay? Let me share a file with you. I have some exercises for today because I knew that you may want to see the examples, okay? This can be an example of one question in the exam, okay? I give you the title of an article. Can you see the file I share? Can you see the file? Okay. Okay. So if you can you see it now? Yes, I can upload it on LMS. Okay, I would actually put it there. Look at this. This is the title. Okay, this is the title of an article. The relationship between Iranian male and female EFL learners' motivation and their identity, professionalism, and hardiness. Okay, now let's determine the variables. What is the dependent variable? Look, the question, the title is relationship. When we have the relationship, we do not have dependent variable. Okay, so be careful about this. There is no dependent variable when we have the relationship. But we want to check the relationship between variables. Those variables become independent variables. So here, motivation is one independent variable. Identity is the second independent variable. So we have two independent variables. We want to check the relationship. What type of study is it? Type of study is quantitative and descriptive. We said in descriptive we have frequency or relationship. Here we have relationship, so it becomes quantitative, descriptive type. Yes, both of them are independent variables. آقای عبدالکریم محمد عبدالرحمن, when we have the relationship type of study, okay, we have the relationship between variables that are independent. I mean, and variable A does not influence the variable B, okay? We want to check the relationship. Now, what is the control variable? If you remember, we said control variable is something, we control it, we restrict it, we limit it because we want to control the influence of variables on each other. We have Iranian here. It means all participants in this research are Iranian. And male and female we have. So we have male and female. Another independent variable here is gender, male and female. What else is controlled? EFL learners. They are learning English in an EFL context. Do you know the difference between EFL and ESL? Do you know the difference between EFL context and ESL context? So EFL means English as a foreign language, okay? ESL means English as a second language. How are these two different? Do you know? So when we say English as a foreign language, it's like Iran, okay? In Iran, we study English in university or we study English in the school, but out there in the street, people speak Persian, Farsi. In the offices, people speak Farsi. When you go to the bank, people speak Farsi. So we have an EFL context. But ESL context is like a country in which English is used in offices, in banks, for communicating official issues, like India. For example, in India, people go to English classes, but when they go to their offices, they use English as the medium of communication. When they go to the bank, they use English as the medium of communication. So that is an ESL context. It means outside the class, the students have the opportunity to become exposed to English. Okay? What about Iraq? Iraq is an EFL context. I mean, you do not speak English when you go to the bank, to the offices. It is an EFL context.
Yes, doctor. In Iraq, EFL, English for language.
So English is as a foreign language. Okay.
As a foreign language. Yeah.
Good.
Not a second language.
So the formal language is Arabic. Am I right?
You are right.
Good. Okay, great. So now let's see what research question can be right for this topic. Okay, consider I gave you this topic and I want you to write the research question. What is the research question? The research question is the type of quantitative we have, and we have descriptive type, the type in which we want to check the relationship. Now, can you write the research question for this topic in the chat box? Consider this as an exam question. For example, I give you this topic and I say, write a research question for this topic. Write the research question in the chat box. I give you 2 minutes to think and write. Write it in the chat box. I said you have this topic, okay? I want you to write a research question for this topic. Good. So the pattern was, is there, the question was like this. Do you remember? It was, is there a significant relationship between Iranian, okay, male and female learners' motivation and their identity? This is actually the research question we write for this, okay? Good. Now, let's look at another one. A comparative analysis of perceived effects of interactionist and interventionist dynamic assessment models in the improvement of speaking sub-skills among Iranian FL learners. So when we say comparative, yes, thank you, آقای محمود رقد عثمان. So what is the relationship between learners' anxiety and their performance in different language areas? The question is right, but it's better to write it as a yes-no question, okay? Is there a significant relationship between learners' anxiety and their performance in different language classes? Thank you. Now, we have a comparative analysis. When we say comparative, it means that the study is quantitative and causal. Okay, we have causal, and the causal want to check the difference because we want to compare the groups. What groups? Groups with interactionist dynamic assessment and interventionist dynamic assessment models. So, effects of interactionist and interventionist dynamic assessment models can be considered as independent variable. Effect of this on something else, okay? So these are independent variables. What about dependent variables? What is the dependent variable here? Can you tell me? What is the dependent variable here in this topic? Yes, thank you. Thank you. This improvement of speaking sub-skills. Okay, this one, I mean, the second one that you see. Okay, let me see. So the speaking sub-skills, the improvement of speaking sub-skill is the dependent variable. Okay, now can you tell me the control variables here? What are the control variables? Thank you very much for good information, آقای حمدلوی محمود. Thank you, آقای خلف، آقای عبدالکریم. So, Iranian EFL learners, this is considered as control variable. Now, can you write the research question for this one? So we said it's a quantitative one, is a causal type, and is the difference type. So in this type of study, we would say, is there a significant, if you remember, we said significant difference between Group A and Group B. Group A between interactionist, Group B, and interventionist, okay? Models in terms of the dependent variable, speaking sub-skills. So that can be the research question for this, because it is comparative, because we have two groups, because we want to check the cause-effect relationship. It is causal, so we write it this way. Is there a significant difference? The model is like this. I included the model, the pattern in the slides. I uploaded the slides on LMS so you can practice writing research questions so that when I give you the exam question, you can write a research question, okay? Practice makes perfect. So practice with your friends. If you come to Iran sooner, you can form groups and study with your classmates. You can explain points to each other. Explaining things can help you learn better, okay? So form some groups, spend some time together, and talk to each other about different actually parts of the lesson, okay? Research or teaching course, linguistics course, so you can study together. Studying together can help you a lot. Good. Now, let's see this one. The effect of teaching lexical cohesion on improving IELTS academic writing, task 2. What is the dependent variable? Can you tell me? What is the dependent variable? On Wednesday, we will have another class, Aghay Abdul Karim. On Wednesday, we will talk about sampling and data collection. They are easier, okay? Study up to now, and the 2 chapters on sampling and data collection are easy. Don't worry, okay? Just study as much as possible. So, thank you very much, Aghay Mahmoud Ragad Osman. So, improving IELTS academic writing task 2 is the dependent variable. What about the independent variable? What about the independent variable? Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Aghay Abdul Karim Muhammad, Aghay Mahmoud Ragadet. Teaching lexical cohesion. So I want to check the influence of variable A, independent variable, on variable B, dependent variable. Do we have control variable here? No, it is not provided. Maybe we have, but in the title, it is not presented. Now, what about the type of study? You see, the type of study is, again, the type of study is quantitative, okay? So it is quantitative. Now, it is quantitative, but it is causal, and it tries to actually understand the effect of something. So the pattern is like this. If you remember, we should say, does independent variable have an effect on dependent variable? So we write does, what is the independent variable? Teaching. Does teaching lexical cohesion have an effect on dependent variable on IELTS academic writing task 2. So this is the research question we write for that, okay? So this is the question we write for that. So the research question is the causal type, which one wants to explore the effect of something and something else. Does the teaching lexical cohesion have an effect on IELTS academic writing? Thank you, Abdul Karim Muhammad. Exactly, that's right. So practice this kind of actually writing research questions, identify the type of study. This can be one type of exam question. I give you the title of the study and I ask you to identify the variables, the research question, the type of study, and data collection instrument is the next lesson, okay? We will study about the data collection instruments on Wednesday. So this can be a sample question that you need to answer in the exam. Okay, so any questions up to now? So let's review what I said. Okay, let's just review based on the slides. So we have quantitative research. The first type of quantitative research is descriptive. In descriptive, we want to check the frequency. The question is this: what is the frequency of something? Or we want to see the relationship. Is there any significant relationship between variable A and variable B? When we want to check the relationship, variable A and variable B are independent variables. Okay? Then the second type is causal. Causal is either the effect. The question is like this: does an independent variable have an effect on a dependent variable? So when we have a causal research question, the first variable is independent. The second one that is influenced is the dependent. On Wednesday you will travel. So I can record the class, okay? And I can record it on LMS. You can watch it. Okay, maybe you cannot attend the class then. So I actually record the class and I will tell you know on Telegram group. You can watch it on LMS or I send it on Telegram group and you can watch. Is it okay with you? So that you can actually watch the recorded file and there is no problem because you are on the way. So the second type of causal is the difference. The question is like this. Okay, is there a difference between group A and group B in terms of variable? And the predictive, which is like this. Both files. I will send you the files up to Tuesday because I'm actually busy correcting my students' papers. They have their exams, okay? Alright, Davi. If you allow me up to Tuesday, I will actually send you both files for chapter 7 and 8, okay? Both files of today, yes, I uploaded. Yes, they have good marks. They are good students and they study. If you study good, actually well, you will get good marks. So just listen to the recorded files of the class and study the actually chapters. Study together, ask each other questions. You will get good grades. Don't worry. I uploaded this file on LMS. I will upload the example question on LMS too, okay, so that you can have access to them. For the 2 chapters of Wednesday, because some of you cannot be online, so I record the class and I will put it on LMS and on Telegram so that you can actually watch the recorded file and be ready for the exam, okay? Yeah, I see. I know that there are a lot of materials, but you know, when you start an MA course, this is what happens for the first weeks. Then you get used to that. Yeah, I see. I know. Yeah, I know. You know, it takes time. You get tired because that's a long way. Some of you should travel by bus. So I understand all your concerns as a student. I have students from, you know, Ahvaz, which is somehow far as Iraq is, okay? So don't worry, I have students from Bushehr, so I understand when it is far, it takes time and energy. Don't be afraid of the exam, just study as much as possible. Try your best, and rely on God. You know, if you try, you will get good scores. But it needs to study, okay? Study carefully. Study carefully. You will get actually under pressure. I understand. It is a bit difficult, okay? But if you study and you try your best and you study hard, you will get good grades. You know, good teachers are hardworking. No, don't be worried. Don't be worried. Just study. Okay? If you study well, the students that I have and they study well, they get good grades. So if you study well, you get good grades. The questions are easy. As you saw, the sample questions would be like that, and they are easy. If you study, for example, what I said about quantitative and different types of research questions, you could answer the question. So there's nothing difficult about this unless you do not study, okay? Good. Okay, now we can have a rest for 15 minutes and then we will come back to talk about the hypothesis. Do you agree? Can we know when the exam schedule will be released? They haven't announced it to us yet. I'm waiting, the same as you, okay? Because they should announce the exam schedule to me too, but the educational affairs of the university hasn't announced that yet, okay? So you will know about this soon, I hope so. Because I need to know, because it's kind of the holiday between 2 semesters for me, so I need to know that too. So we can have the second class in 15 minutes. So take a rest for 15 minutes. Okay, after 15 minutes, come to the class again, okay? So take a short rest, drink some tea or coffee, and come back. So see you then.